Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the opening reception for the show called Reflections, the Art of Tom Duran Jr. Thank you, everybody, for being here, enjoying the center, enjoying the artwork, and I hope enjoying the food and beverages. For those of you that don't know me, I'm Steve Quigley. I'm the Executive Director here at the Ned Smith Center, and again, welcome to everybody that's here. I want to let you know who's all part of this exhibit. First off, and they may be in the other room, and they can hear me in there, so if Tom Duran can hear me, I hope that he comes this way towards the Ned Smith Gallery. But we have, obviously, the artist is here, Tom Duran Jr., and his lovely wife. They've come in from Stallstown to be here with you, and he will tell you a little bit about himself and the show. We have folks from the Fish and Boat Commission that are here with us. They've been a great help. A lot of the art that you see hanging on the walls in the exhibit came from all over the state, from all of their buildings. It went out over the years, and they brought it back in so we could have it on display for you. I know John Arway is here. He's the executive director. There he is. Ted Walker's here. Ted is in the back, and he was very instrumental in helping us put this whole exhibition together. It's actually an idea that he brought to us probably 18 months ago, and we started talking about it and said we'd love to do it, but we wanted to do it as a summer exhibit so that we could do it with a couple of projects that we have along the way between now and the end of summer. Steve Walsh is here, retired from the Fish Commission. I don't know if he's in here, but he's somewhere around. There he is. I think he's going to have something to say because he's a compatriot of Tom's, so I'm sure there's a couple of stories there. One of the other sponsors that we have, big sponsor for us, is the Carnegie Museum of Natural History. And I know there's some folks here from Powdermill. I don't know who's here from Powdermill, but I know there's several, okay? And they may have something to say. Powdermill Nature Center is literally around the corner from Tom's house. And I think Tom lives there when he gets tired of being in his workshop. So they may have a couple comments to say, but Carnegie was very instrumental. The 8 carvings that you see in the other room of the extinct birds all came from the Carnegie Museum of Natural History. And Tom did them between 1990 and 2000. So they're just awesome pieces of art. We're glad to have them. And I hope Carnegie's glad to have it out on display again. And then lastly, Whitaker Center is one of our sponsors. And I don't know if we have anybody from Whitaker. I didn't see anybody on the list. If there is anybody, put my hand. We'll go from there. So it's been a great collaboration of several organizations and been a very fun project to put together. So I hope you enjoy the paintings, enjoy the sculpture and the taxidermy work. And we'll see if we can't get Tom to talk a little bit about it and walk around with you after we give him a chance to talk in here. So I'd like to bring up John Arway, Executive Director of the Fish and Boat Commission. Wait, let me talk.
No, it's good they get that out.
So John, welcome.
Good evening, everyone. It's a real pleasure to be here tonight to kick off the Tom's exhibit. I really appreciate the good work that Steve and his staff have done to put this exhibit together. And gives us really a chance to show off Tom's work that we've all enjoyed within the Fish and Boat Commission, and probably within the bowels of the Carnegie for a long time, but really never had a chance to bring it out and have the public enjoy it. Reflections is probably the perfect title for this exhibit because, as we know, a lot of Tom's paintings have reflections on the surface of the water as we look at them and try to interpret what they mean. But it's also a chance for us to enjoy and celebrate the art that Tom has produced for over the past 30 years. It gives us time to pause and reflect upon the joy that Tom's art has meant to many of us that have actually had the pleasure of observing it for all these years. I've worked for my agency for over 34 years now, and have enjoyed Tom's original art as it was displayed in many of our agency buildings. In fact, I worked in an office building in Pleasant Gap, and had a chance to look at his art when I came and went through my office every day. I've always been impressed with Tom's attention to detail, since his art was always accurate down to the very last scale, fin, and rattle. We all know the saying that a painting's worth 1,000 words. And Tom's artwork shows us various species of critters in their native habitats. Tom's paintings truly bring the fish, reptiles, and amphibians of Pennsylvania to life, where we can display them on our home or office walls as a constant reminder about how important it is to protect, conserve, and enhance our aquatic resources. Tom's artwork continues to be aligned with the very resource-first mission of my agency, the Fish and Boat Commission. And if we can see the species in our native habitats, we can become better teachers about the importance of conservation of the natural resources, whether they're fish, reptiles, or amphibians, which so accurately are displayed in Tom's art. They grace the cover of our flagship publication, the Angler and Boater magazine, for many years. And this has allowed us to educate thousands of readers about the life history of an animal which they may never get to see, such as an endangered mossy-slaughter rattlesnake, or the elusive spring peeper, or the elegant spotted salamander. Tom's artwork delivers the message that we not only need to conserve our rare species and be good stewards of our environment, but also shows us that there are abundant resources such as game fish in our waters that we can enjoy as a sport or even as table fare. One of the long-standing contributions that Tom has provided, which continues to be one of the most popular items on our agency's publication list, is this series of wall charts. My own children went to bed at night staring at these on their bedroom walls, and I recently replaced the faded and tattered ones with new ones that now my grandchildren marvel at as they fade off to sleep every night. These were created by Tom and our staff beginning in the early 1970s with this cold water species chart, and the fish series now includes cold warm water, panfish, migratory fish, forage fish, and other miscellaneous fish species. Our herb series includes frogs, turtles, salamanders, and snakes. We have sold thousands of these wall charts over the past 35 years, and I would like to personally thank Tom for his contribution to youth education. I intentionally wore a tie this evening that bears the image of another famous artist, Norman Rockwell. And I have other ties that bear paintings of other famous artists, such as Guy Harvey. Tom, I think I've defined another market for your artwork, although it may be a limited niche market, for those of us that have a passion for nature and the outdoors, like you, me, and the others that are here tonight. As a contemporary of Ned Smith, tonight's celebration of Tom's accomplishments and contributions is long overdue. Thank you again, Tom, for your fine work.
Tom, after you do the first tie, I'll buy the second one. But I'm not paying for his. Ted, did you want to say any words? He's walking around here somewhere. You want to say anything? I knew he would.
I don't really have anything prepared. I mean, with regard to when I came to the commission a number of years ago, Tom was obviously already in his prime, and he was always a mentor to me in terms of kind of coming into somewhat of a shadow of that in a different capacity in the agency. And John had mentioned the idea of it being long overdue. I think from the standpoint of seeing what he had accomplished even while he was there, that gives you the time span of how long overdue it probably was, given the prominence of his work and such. Tom's just a great, fantastic, and fine artist, very humble person, and I think the enjoyment of his work and the fact that you're seeing an artist who is really a full scope artist. I mean, the idea that you've got an artist that can actually do hand renderings with watercolor, all kinds of medium, but also from a three-dimensional standpoint. And you've probably heard it a number of times, and I'll say it, my perspective, he's somebody that knows the work inside and out. You see his work over there, he's a taxidermist, and you walk a few steps over and you see the same thing, you see the ringneck pheasant, and he carved that. And it's just truly amazing. And in this day and age of computers and everything else and stuff, and whiz-bang stuff, and technology, the fact that it comes back to a person is doing this by hand through observation it was incredible when Tom did it, but it's just even more incredible now. So, and I'd like to also mention that Stephen mentioned the fact that a lot of this work was brought in from the commission. It wasn't just Harrisburg. There's a couple of folks that aren't here that I'd like to mention that really helped me out facilitating it. One is one of our deputy directors, Andy Shields, numerous trips down from Pleasant Gap and stuff to bring the work down. And the other person would be Chris Coles, who works in our warehouse and stuff. And he just did a yeoman's job in terms of looking at the records. I basically said, okay, here's the spreadsheet, and what can we do to kind of collect and funnel things in and such. So in terms of things brought, all hands on deck from the commission stuff, all the way from John to everyone involved, myself and others and such, we knew how much this meant in terms of having a PFBC employee, and we'll say former because I don't think you're ever a former, but from the capacity of having someone that we can showcase like this in a great building like this, and somebody that was contemporary of Ned Smith's, something that a lot of people, I didn't think about it too much until we were talking about doing this exhibit, but Tom worked for the Fish Commission at the time, not the Fish and Boat Commission. Fish Commission at the same time that Ned Smith was working over at the Game Commission. So you're dealing with looking at art here on that level, and got him here, you can converse with him. So it's a fantastic evening, fantastic reception, fantastic gallery display. Thank you.
Tom, it may be long overdue, but I'm glad you're at least here to enjoy it. Steve Walsh, did you want to make any comments? I know that you guys go way back, and I'm sure you got a story or two to share.
You want me to talk?
Tom, was he allowed to talk?
I was sent to, Ralph Hall sent me to Pittsburgh to interview Tom. At that time we were looking for an exhibits technician. So he was working at Boyce Park as a naturalist, so I went out and we sat under a tree, I think, and that's where the interview took place. We came back and I said to Ralph, I said, you better hire that guy, he's pretty good. As you can see, he's done really well. Tom, is a strange guy. He eats pie backwards. He starts at the crust and goes toward the point. And I said, what the hell are you eating backwards for? He said, well, I like crust so much, if I get full, then I'll have the crust eaten. So that's how he did. The permanent cream pie was his favorite pie. So another, he also, I used to pull a trick on him and other guys. Tom loved to eat. You look at him, but you didn't think he could eat. He has to eat at a certain time. So we knew Tom would get hungry, and 11:30 he'd start asking, "We're going to eat?" "Oh yeah, we're going to stop and eat." Quarter to 12, "Did you pick a place yet?" "No, not yet." You go by, right, "There's a place." "Well, about 12:30, he said, "Damn it, we got to stop. You better stop right." So we pulled over. And I don't know how many times we did that on Tom. Anyway, he's a very good artist, and we hired him as an exhibits technician. And I remember when he left, there were some other things involved, but he said, "This isn't stretching me enough." And by golly, it wasn't, because you can see the things that he's done. And Tom, you've done a great job, and I think you're one of the finest artists out there, especially in fish and reptiles. So I want to thank you for your long service to the commission and the people of Pennsylvania.
I think we have a couple words from the folks from Carnegie, so why don't you come on up and introduce yourselves to everybody and then talk about what Tom does for you.
Thank you. I'm John Wenzel. I'm the director of Powder Mill Nature Reserve. And as Steve said, if you leave Tom's driveway and roll downhill, you eventually wind up at the Nature Reserve. Tom's down there all the time. We use him not just for art, which he does our art for us, but we take advantage of his proximity in all kinds of ways. If the wedding runs really late, we leave and we call Tom and say, "Tom, go lock up those doors at 1 o'clock in the morning." be in there, and we were talking about the World Series, and he allowed us how it just really bugged him that the outfield is different in every park. It's not the same distance to the fence. Sometimes there's a fountain out there, or something cut out, a big giant wall. Why didn't you just put a hot dog stand out there? Why not? And it just drove him crazy because he has a very keen sense of form and balance and propriety. And he brings his artist eye even to the World Series. It just shakes his head and thinks, yeah, that's just not right. That's not what the ball field should look like. And I love working with him. Thank you, Tom.
So Tom, come on up, because it's your turn to say a few words, but I know that when Tom gets called to lock up after his wedding, to have to leave him a plate of food. So we know that that's true. So Tom, do you want to say a few words up here? I'll bet you do.
I gotta defend myself somehow. Thank you, Steve. My gosh, this is incredible. It really is. Yeah, I have to defend myself on some of these things, but John's right about the World Series thing. For some reason, and I don't know why, that it's always offended my sense of design and invalidated some statistics that every Major League ballpark is basically the same as far as the infield, but you've got the outfield, and they've got gaps and holes and notches and different things. But to me, it's the same as if you were to take and knock off a corner of an end zone and say, well, we needed a hot dog stand, we needed some seating over here, or they made a basketball court 10 feet shorter because they wanted to, a little uptight, but don't worry about it. It's not a big deal. No, I did have a number of things that I feel I would be totally remiss if I didn't mention. I'm not even going to dig out my notes because the time is moving on. And I know a lot of you have come a long distance, and I really, really appreciate it. The years that I spent with the Fish Commission, I mean, when the old mind starts to go, and you start losing your short-term memory, it's really nice that at least you still have some of your long-term memory. Because those days that I spent with the Fish Commission are as clear in my mind as if they happened yesterday. We had some fun. We worked hard, but we tried to have some fun. But to be in this gallery with all of Ned's stuff is incredible to me because everybody's got a Ned Smith story to tell, and I have to tell a quick one because they all end the same way. What a great person he was. But as a kid, I'm about 23 or 24 years old. Married to my wife, Clyde, sitting right back there. Our son was about, I guess maybe he was about 4 or 5 at the time. And I wanted to meet Ned Smith. So, as a naive, dumb kid, I'm thinking he's in the game commission building. So we pile into the car in the Volkswagen. And Harrisburg could have been the far side of the moon. I figured if you get on the turnpike, you get to Harrisburg sooner or later. I walk into the old South Office building in the Capitol Complex down there. And I said, I'd like to see Ned Smith. The lady looked at me like I was from the dark side of the moon. She said, Ned doesn't work here anymore. He hasn't worked here for about 12 years. But if you want, I'll call him. Well, I didn't know what to say, but to make a long story short, she calls him. He says, send the kid up. We spent 2 hours, and this is sort of documented on one of those marvelous little panels that the staff here has put on the wall. But Ned sat there and talked to me for about 2 hours, and I realized not very long afterward that he had a deadline to meet. Magazine deadlines were brutal anyhow. He was starting to do some work for Field and Stream magazine, and he had to have it done, but he still had 2 hours to talk to me. So he was quite a guy. Gee whiz, there's a number of stories that I could tell, but again, I don't want to take up too much of your time. But the folks here, Steve and Alexis and Beth and everybody else, Carmen's sick and tired of answering the phone and finding me on the other end. They have done a fantastic job, but I got to tell you one thing that Steve did. This is incredible. To stand here and look at all the stuff in the other gallery mayhem. I mean, there was stuff everywhere, crates all over the place, stuff, leaning against walls. And there's Steve and Alexis dashing around trying to organize everything to put it in the proper order. And when I left that night to head back home, I was just thrilled with the whole picture because I just knew that they were going to put together a wonderful show, and they really, really have. But I have to tell you one story about Steve. Back in February, the extinct birds were stored in a facility in the East Liberty section of Pittsburgh. If any of you have ever been to the East Liberty section of Pittsburgh, you know what I'm talking about. It's tough enough to drive a Volkswagen through there, let alone a moving van. Steve gets up at 3 o'clock in the morning, goes and gets this moving van that he's rented, drives to Pittsburgh to the facility that I just spoke of, loads up these enormous crates. I mean, the museum built the crates to house those pieces. Some of those crates were big enough that a homeless person would be tickled to have one. And they put all these crates in the truck. He leaves there by 11 o'clock in the morning, drives out to our house. We live near Donegal on the turnpike. He loads up another pile of stuff, drives all the way back to Harrisburg, drives up here, unloads everything, because keep in mind the temperature was in the single digits, and then he goes home. Now that was probably close to a 24-hour day. I think it's terrific. I would like everybody to maybe give a hand to the entire staff here because they did But other than that, I just the words can't explain. Some of the great people that I met with the Fish Commission. It was great to see everybody here. The old friends I've had, the new friends I just made. I've never met John Orway until tonight. I've known him for about 3 hours now. I've known Steve Walsh for close to 50 years. It was quite a span. But Steve and I worked hard. We had some fun. We did some wacky things. But to tell you what the kind of people Steve and Molly are, and Molly is an incredible artist in her own right. She's one of the most creative people I've ever met in my life. She could teach this stuff at every level. She could step in and fill in anybody's shoes in the academic end of things. But our son graduated from Seton Hill College in art. He's done well for himself. We're very proud of him. He's a vice president in charge of pretty nearly everything at the Miami Museum of Science. But when he graduated, part of the cycle was he had to have a senior show, similar to what a final paper or a thesis would be. But he's having this senior show, and in the midst of it all, who walks in but Steve and Molly. They had driven all the way from Harrisburg to Pittsburgh. And that's the way they were. They're just great people. But Steve and I, we pulled some stunts, and it was only because we wanted the very best we could possibly, get for the Fish Commission. We wanted to put a nice exhibit together, but one, I guess probably the most ambitious project we ever put together was for the farm show in Harrisburg. And about 3 days before the show, we were putting the final touches on the business up at our central maintenance complex here at Pleasant Gap. And all of a sudden I realized that some plexiglass that I had bought or purchased or ordered was not strong enough to do what it was supposed to do. We had spent about $250 on this plexiglass, which at the time represented about 10% of our entire exhibit's budget. And I called Steve in a panic. I said, "What are we going to do?" He says, "Don't worry about it." He says, "Just go ahead and get what you need." I said, "But what are we going to do about the purchasing agent?" He says, "I'll tell her some lie. Don't worry about it." So, to make a long story short, we got the thing together, and it worked out just fine. But I'm sure that night when he went home with his blood pressure basically off the chart, he walked in and said, "Oh, that damn Tom screwed up again." And Molly said, "Don't worry about it." She said, "It's fine. He's an artist. He's got a couple of screws loose anyhow." I said, "Don't worry." So from that point on, we went on to stop and see what powder mill looks like. It's an institution in itself. I mean, it's the research, field research wing of Carnegie Museum. It's an internationally famous bird banding station. We've got a nice little museum out there, very much a mirror image of the program here, and we'd love to see you all. But thanks so much. Again, we'll see you.
Thank you all for being here. Please enjoy the wine, enjoy the food, enjoy the artwork, particularly in the old wine gallery, although you're allowed to walk around here when you're done over there. And have a great evening. If I don't get to talk to you, drive safely. Thank you.
Last week for game commissioner, Vern Ross, remember Vern, director of the game commission. Rush Schleich, Russ was commissioner of the game commission. Very good on the foundation. Yep.
Make fun of.
Thanks for the invite, boss.
Sure, I'm glad you came down. You got a ways to go.
All right, I'm staying with Spotsy today.
Oh, all right. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, it may
She'll remember.
get your picture taken here.
Yeah.
Where would you like it?